Hi, and welcome to Business Unusual. I'm Liz Whitehead, co-mastermind at Diversity Masterminds. I'm here with Heather Cox.
Hi, the other co-mastermind of Diversity Masterminds.
And today we have a guest, Ben Conard from 5 North Chocolate. Hi, Ben.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me, Liz and Heather.
Thanks for being here. So we're going to get into business unusual, what happens when business unusual becomes business as usual. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about 5 North Chocolate.
Sure. So 5 North is a brand of snacking chocolate that I started right in my college dorm room. I was a naive student thinking that I could change the candy industry for the better. Honestly, I was just dissatisfied with the fact that candy and chocolate was always associated with guilt, usually in two ways. Obviously with eating it and consuming it, things high in sugar or artificial flavors or bad ingredients, and then also on the supply chain side. So farmers, in inequitable trading standards who were earning below poverty wages for hard work that creates a delicious treat for us. Those were two guilty factors that I wanted to remove from candy and remove from chocolate. So we actually started as a candy company, like a traditional lollipop, gummy bear, gummy worm company. And after a lot of iterations and sampling, we moved to chocolate, realizing that that was the space we wanted to be in.
That's a much more delicious space. Also,
I agree.
For sure. So wait, before we get on to this business unusual part, can I ask you, how have you changed that part of it, the two guilty parts? Obviously, like anyone who knows chocolate knows good chocolate's actually good for you. Hello. But although if my kids try that one on me, but so how have you changed the inequity part of it?
Sure. Yeah. So, first and foremost was starting with healthy ingredients. So the first ingredient in all of our chocolate is actually cacao. This is a fruit. This is where chocolate comes from. When people are asked where they think chocolate comes from, their first answer is usually like a factory in Belgium.
Right.
It's actually, it's a fruit that grows on a tree. And I think that's pretty incredible. And we need to give it the credit it deserves. So, most dark chocolate, most milk chocolate on the market today has a very low cacao percentage. So we make sure that the first ingredient in all of our snacks is cacao, which is that fruit, which is high in antioxidants, low in sugar. It's got a myriad of benefits, good for your skin, good for your gut. And so that's what we really want to focus on. Then all of our flavors are also superfoods. So any kind of inclusion that we're using, whether it be goji berries or raw almonds or raw pistachios, those are all considered superfoods. So we wanted to kind of pack in, if we were going to flavor the chocolate or alter it in any way, we wanted to make sure we were packing in some more nutrition. So that was kind of
in there.
Say again, kale. We could try it. I'll make a custom batch.
I'll come out with
Heather. And then on the equity side, the supply chain side, we wanted to make sure that we were sourcing only fair trade certified cacao. So I've seen cacao and other farms on the ground in places like Ecuador. I've seen artisan and producer workshops in India, and I've seen kind of firsthand the positive and or really negative effects that globalization can have on these communities. So I wanted to make sure that however we were going to source our raw ingredients, that we were doing it ethically, and fair trade is a really good way of doing that.
Awesome.
Love it.
That's great.
I actually didn't, you said something about the cacao that I didn't know was a fruit. So now I can have my chocolate and my wine and be like, I'm eating fruit, people.
It's basically salad.
It's basically a healthy meal.
It seriously is, because if it grows on a tree, grapes also grow on a vine. So
I'm telling my trainer. I'm telling you, this is like a conversation we have to have now.
You send them to me. I'll straighten them out.
Straighten her out, exactly.
Awesome. Well, so your business went through some changes already with deciding the chocolate's where you're going to be. With COVID-19 and the year that was 2020, what are some of the changes that your business went through, or how did you prepare for that or not prepare?
Yeah, definitely was not prepared for that. Especially in the startup world, you're just kind of hanging on for dear life all across every stage. So, when March came around, it was, I think, the most devastating thing to see happening between March and summer was so many of our B2B partners closing. So every deli, cafe, or store that we were selling our chocolate in, which is, about 80% of our business, was struggling. They were either temporarily closed or starting to permanently close. It was devastating. I think for us, because we weren't, getting the reorders, we weren't having our invoices paid on time. And then of course, also, I think it was just so depressing to see your partners who stood in solidarity with you to put a great product onto the market just no longer existed. So that was a huge shift and change that we had to kind of just come to the realization with. I would say one positive outcome from the pandemic was the willingness of consumers to just purchase their products online. This is especially true in the food space now. So like food used to not always be purchased online. If you ran out of your favorite jam in your fridge, you weren't going to buy a 6-pack online. But now during the pandemic, you might actually be more willing to do that, save you one less thing to buy at the grocery store. I think there were just a lot of barriers removed in people's head for placing orders online. And so that shifted to more direct to consumer business for us.
Oh, great. So you shifted online. Was that something that you were already working on and the COVID accelerated it?
Exactly. Yeah. So our online presence was, it was pretty meek at best. We just, we had a site, it was functional. When somebody wanted to place an order, they could, but it wasn't really optimized for most of our business to be channeled through there. So there were a lot of changes that we made in terms of like how big our pack sizes were, how we were charging for shipping, and how we were actually physically shipping those orders out. I would say the other shift that we saw too in a B2B way was that some of our business partners were starting to order for their employees. So like we worked with this just in the past couple of months, we've worked with Bank of America and MasterCard to send chocolate to their employees. So they would be putting together gift baskets or boxes to send to their own teammates, which was a very different, we've never done something like that before. So that was a positive shift that came out of this as well.
That's
great. So you were doing B2B in terms of restaurants, but then your website was really much more B2C.
Totally. Yes. Yep.
Great. What are some, this isn't one of the questions that we said we were going to ask, but
so Heather of you, Liz, just throw a random question in there.
I know.
Give me a wild card.
Well, I'm curious because it's like one of these strictly product-based companies, which I don't think we've had yet. Right. What are some do's and don'ts from shifting to e-commerce? Like, what would you tell people who are like, okay, I'm going to attack this in a big way?
Yeah, the number one barrier for somebody placing an order online is shipping.
True.
It comes down to realizing what the product costs and then what it costs to get it in your hands.
Yes.
And the closer that you can make those two costs the same or the end price the same, the better it is for the customer. They want to know, I think what they really want is a transparent experience on the site, because when you hit checkout, you finally find all the products you want. You add them to the cart, you hit checkout, and then there's a surprise. It comes across as a surprise shipping fee. And it's not something that you were incorporating into the cost of the original products that you were putting together. So that is, for me, that's the number one barrier for our customers, realizing that we need to incorporate shipping into our final cost so that our customer, when they're browsing, kind of knows what they're getting themselves into.
So smart, because I know, for me, sometimes I'm like, I will literally stop ordering right there once I see that extra come through. And when anyone has a special free shipping, I'm like, oh, I'm buying everything I would possibly need for the entire year right now because I don't want to pay for shipping.
Yes, exactly that. And the other thing too is to realize that your site is not going to be idiot proof. And I'm using that word really loosely, I promise, because I'll get emails that are like, hey, I just tried to order, but I couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, really? It's 3 buttons. So luckily, I found that there's a system in place where I can literally just go into our Shopify e-commerce platform and throw together an invoice and email it straight to the customer. And then they can just enter in the payment information. Once they pay for it, I get the notification to ship it. So I would say just remove all the barriers you can. And then even if there are barriers, make it idiot proof.
Right.
Yeah. I had that experience too when I was doing my gift shopping, was that I couldn't get more than one gift card at a time. So if I'm doing it for 10 people, I couldn't put a personalized note. Even if I was just cutting and pasting, hi, Kelly, hey, Ben, I couldn't do it. It kept putting the same message for every gift card.
Oh gosh.
So
annoying.
I did, because I feel strong, you know, I was like, I went out and I did it myself, and I was like, look, I figured it out, but I need to let you know this is not frictionless.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
other people would have given up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
no,
the
for
ideal
sure.
customer, Liz. Thank you.
Yeah,
for
you are.
telling
I'm
that.
not. Right. No. I'm like the nightmare customer for sure. Wait, so I
No.
want to ask another question that we didn't tell you we were going to ask you.
Okay.
So you are one of the very few products that have the NGLCC logo on your product, which kudos to you. I have been like begging NGLCC for years to make a retailable logo like WeBank has.
Totally.
Right. So how did you decide to do that? Has that helped you at all? Have people noticed it, other than people like Liz and I who have already drank the Kool-Aid, right? How has that affected your business?
Great question, Heather. I mean, that was a big change that we made to our package when we decided to do like a fully, like, beautifully art designed package and finally print it. And it was honestly a pretty last minute decision where I was kind of like, hey, like, we have the Fair Trade certified seal. Like, there are so many other certifications that you can throw in your package that consumers really care about, but they're usually related to supply chain, like kosher certified, Fair Trade certified, organic certified, gluten-free, vegan. Like, there are so many that it's always about the raw ingredient or where it's coming from, and less about the organization and the values behind that organization. And so I consider all of those seals to kind of be in the same category. They're values.
For sure.
I mean, really, they're value signals for the consumer to look for.
Yeah.
So I decided to put it on. It was kind of like ask for forgiveness, not permission. And it came out. And I mean, the response was really good because people were actually excited, I think, about being able to show off that a company is diversity owned. Like, I think that is a value that people are starting to look for. And other than that, I think it really just signals like what our company, what our brand stands for and values. And that is super powerful, not only for the actual end consumer who's enjoying and eating our product, but also for anyone in between, right? Like, any partner that we work with, they want to show their recipient that they care about those things as well.
Absolutely. And I think when I did the post about your company, I even said they share the same core values that we do, because it is really important. And Liz and I have said it so many times, especially the last, is it 8 months, 8 years, whatever this year has lasted long, that how you spend your money demonstrates your values, demonstrates what you hold near and dear to your heart.
Absolutely. And aside from that, like, if nothing else, what this seal does is it increases visibility.
Yeah.
It really, I mean, it shows that, I mean, you wouldn't normally think when you pick up a food product, like, who the people are necessarily behind that, especially from like an organizational standpoint. But if you do, it just adds another touch point where somebody is exposed to another different point of view or a different group of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. So that's a good question that leads us into the next one, which is, what do you do in terms of buying from diverse suppliers, and how do you show solidarity with, your other LGBTQIs, but then also the Black community, the women-owned community, that kind of thing?
Totally. I mean, I think over the past couple of years, I mean, we've only been a member of NGLCC for like less than 2 years at this point. So we're now starting to have access to all of the suppliers within our own community who we can work with, which is really cool because we've already started to seek out, like, how are we going to order our packaging and our marketing materials from
Good for you.
LGBTBEs. Those are kind of really long sales cycles for us because in a production run, we need to shift like how we're sourcing those materials and really like stock up on them. But there are so many things that we spend money on, and understanding where those are going is hugely important to especially people like us. So we are starting to analyze every piece of our supply chain to see what we can do to make it more diverse. And Heather and Liz, you two are, I would say, just like the beacon poster children of sourcing in a diverse and positive way. So I appreciate what you guys have done to uplift all of our communities around us.
Oh, thank you. Well, we love it. We love it.
And we'd love to help too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're like, I cannot find
Yeah.
this thing, you
We
know,
probably know somebody who does.
probably-
And should you ever want to do alcohol infused chocolates,
Hey,
I know, like every diverse owned alcohol company.
I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to do, at minimum, we can do like a pairing or something
Totally.
fun like that.
Ooh, I love that.
Love
Yeah,
it.
Heather's niche is booze. All
Yeah.
the vices.
I mean, not in my entire life, Liz. I have other niches, but it does seem that way sometimes.
That's awesome.
Mm.
Well, so we're gonna wrap up with the last question we like to ask, which is that COVID-19 eventually is going to go away.
Mhm.
Please
What
do.
is
Yeah.
one, and we'll all
And
be
we'll be in person again. We'll
Yeah.
eat chocolate and drinking whiskey together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
giving 6-minute long hugs.
Yes.
What is one thing that you'd like to see stay after coronavirus goes away?
I mean, for us at least, it was definitely, I think over these past few months, we've really learned, and we were kind of forced to, but we also really learned how to get closer to our customer. They're obviously at the core of everything that we do, but I think sometimes in the hustle and bustle of regular business or business as usual, you lose sight of that. And I think this lockdown and the way that we at least had to position our company to survive through the pandemic, we got really close to our customer, shipping all of our orders to them by hand, writing them notes of gratitude in each order. That really helps you realize, like, where are these orders physically being shipped to? Who are they being shipped to? And when there's a problem, we find out, right? Like, we get a customer email saying, hey, our order didn't show up, or it's late, or it's actually supposed to go here. And we have to realize how we're going to fix that. So like one of our orders was super delayed. A customer was kind of annoyed about it. They called me, of all things, they called me. They didn't email me, they called me. And it was super old. And I had two choices. I could either say, okay, wait for it to arrive, or I'm sending a replacement right now. So I sent the replacement right now. And then they actually both ended up arriving on the exact same day. And they said, hey, I have all this chocolate. What should I do with it? I said, share it with your friends and family. And I believe now from that, we have a customer for life.
100%.
So, there was something about this pandemic that really required us to get close to our customer. And I'm hoping that that is going to become our and many other business as usual.
Awesome.
I love that. Actually, it's so true you say that, because like I know that there's a coffee that I order all the time, which would be another great collab with you, right?
Yeah.
And anytime you order, you get she writes back, says, thank you so much for supporting my woman-owned business, right? So when my sister ordered that coffee, she was like, she got the email and she forwarded me, she's like, so classy. She's like, no, nothing else I've ever ordered from has ever sent me a thank you email.
Amazing. If I could do it, I would write thank you cards to every single one of our customers. But at minimum, we include it into this.
But it's just so nice. Yeah, you're right. It's that personal touch that really made, when we're all so separated, it really helped. Doing things like what you just mentioned, what you're doing, really helps us feel connected. And I think that we really realized that even like the introverts, right? They still have realized they need people in some capacity. So that little act you did probably helped people feel like, Ben cares if I like his chocolate.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I probably care too much.
That's awesome. So if people want to get your chocolate, how do they find you?
Yeah, I mean, I used to tell them to go to a store
but now
and find it. But honestly, the best way is to go straight to our site. It'll be packed by yours truly with a note of gratitude. And yeah, go straight to our site at 5northchocolate.com.
Awesome. Well, Ben, thank you so much. Thanks for surviving and thriving through COVID-19.
Of course.
And
thank you both for having me.
We'll see you next time on Business Unusual.
Sounds great.